What is reality? Is it a creation of the mind? An illusion? Is there only one single reality? And finally, how can we define what's real and what's not? Let's attempt to answer these questions in today's video. Now, the definition of reality is pretty straightforward, and I think most people would agree with it. Something known to be true, something known to exist, something that can be proven. However, if you were to ask people what they believe to be real or not, we would likely encounter some disagreements here. In fact, a lot of us tend to make claims such as, this exists, this does not exist, this is real, this isn't real. But those statements are opinions based on our beliefs. They're not objective points of views. In fact, our whole experience, our whole perception of reality is purely subjective. Defining something as real or not real would kind of imply that we understand what reality truly means and what secrets the universe holds, which would be a pretty big claim to make, considering all the limitations of the mind and all the flaws in what we believe we know and understand. As Heisenberg once wrote, what we observe is not nature, but nature exposed to our method of questioning. Our whole experience is supervised by the mind, right? By the information picked up by our five senses, by our knowledge, what we think we know, by our beliefs, our perception of things. We can hardly have an objective view of the world. In fact, there's a very cool quote by Morpheus in the movies The Matrix, which is the following. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. In fact, Plato stated that reality is created by the mind. We can change our reality by changing our mind. He also held that our senses are deeply unreliable and should not be trusted, yet we put a lot of faith in them, don't you think? Now, it was found that two brains perceive reality completely differently. Much of what we believe to be real is actually mental fabrication based on our past experiences. This is also known as top-down processing. Now, during an experiment, participants were given two balls of the exact same weight, one being bigger in size than the other. The results showed that most participants wrongly reported the bigger ball to be heavier. This presumption, based on the knowledge acquired from their past, distorted their perception of reality. In fact, many neuroscientists such as Patrick Kavanagh support the fact that our brain often fills up the holes with what it expects to see by connecting a present situation to a similar event from the past. He said it's really important to understand that we're not seeing reality, we're only seeing a story that's being created for us. Now remember, how something appears is always a matter of perspective. This is what the very famous cave allegory by Plato shows. Now, if you want to be reminded of what this cave allegory is all about, you can go read it on my article, What is Reality, on novira.com. The link is in the description below. But basically, this allegory brilliantly shows that our perception of the world makes up our entire reality. So there exists a countless amounts of perspective and therefore countless amounts of realities. So we may wonder, is there such a thing as one single reality, the ultimate reality? And what is it? Now, researchers showed that when two individuals were asked to describe the state of a photon, of the same exact photon, they could both arrive at different conclusions and yet both be right. So basically, if one scientist was isolated in a laboratory observing a photon, causing it to stop using quantum mechanics and use classical mechanics instead, the same photon would still be in a state of superposition, so spinning both ways, still using quantum mechanics, for somebody outside of the lab who's not observing the photon. Those two conflicting realities would still be correct. Reality is much more complex than we think it is. We understand, thanks to quantum physics, that there's much more to our physical reality than we thought there was. Beyond what we perceive to be solid and physical lies a sea of particles vibrating at different frequencies, a quantum field that constantly fluctuates. Quantum mechanics shows us that subatomic particles such as photons, which we've just covered, or electrons, exist at all possible states until properly observed or after interacting with a third party. This makes it very plausible that every possible reality, every possible state, every possible outcome exists simultaneously on the quantum field until properly observed and measured. There would therefore be different degrees in reality, different stages. Things do not have to be physical to be real. Ultimately, you would be the one making something more or less real by giving it your attention, by eventually manifesting it onto your physical reality. Essentially, reality is what you choose it to be. I don't think we should ever underestimate the power of the mind. And like William Blake once said, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. As I was editing the video, I realized that I completely forgot to do the outro. So here I am, excuse the change of luminosity. If you liked this video, please leave a like and make sure you subscribe to my channel to show your support. You can also follow me on Instagram and support me on Patreon as well if you'd like to have access to some of the behind the scenes and what I'm working on right now for my first course, my immersive course on time on noviria.com. And comment down below, let me know what you think reality is. And thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I will see you very soon with a new one. Bye bye!